Hela, Odin's firstborn, the rightful heir to the throne and the goddess of death.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
I did not break your rules. They simply bent to my power.
It captures the African American experience.
Welcome, Internet, to another episode of Views from the 616, the blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is I, one of your hosts, Tatiana King, aka the Wicked Witch of the West View, coldest winter soldier ever, Schrodinger's Cap, and Tesseract Thompson. And as always, the resident Stony Tark lover-hater, we have...
Tony Stank. It's your boy, DJ Benhameen. You forgot the red roommate. Come on now. I blessed you with that.
But that was yours. I wanted to give you
No. That's all you. That's all you.
Okay.
I'm definitely passing
Let me throw that second AKA or fifth AKA in there. AKA the red roommate. Thank you, Benhameen. Appreciate it.
There you go. That's all you. You know, it doesn't really fit me. If I was the red roommate, that's kind of suspect.
Shout out to Black Widow. I know, shocking, but yes.
Big shots. Big shots. Shout out to the bro, Marshall, big bro over there. You know what I mean? You heard it first. But yes, it's your boy, DJ Benhameen, a.k.a. Ain't Going Out Like Willie Lumpkin, a.k.a. a Theraminist to society.
You finally got that one out. So
finally. a.k.a. Alligator.
Alligator?
And my brother, Croaky. Crocodile Loki.
Nah, that's the loser horns. I'm sorry. No. Price is Right loser horns once again.
I knew it was bad, but I had to do it.
We got to do it. But thank you, Benhameen, again for the AKAs. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again. We appreciate you joining the Views from the 616. I just wanted to make a point, just mention Black Widow because Benhameen and I saw it early. We had some things to say about it. We gave a first impression review. That video will be out by the time you see this video/podcast. Please hit us up on our YouTube, youtube.com/forallnerds. And like I said, we give you a first impression review of what we thought, but it's spoiler free, okay? We will give a full, in-depth, spoiler-filled review after the movie comes out on July 9th.
Yep. Very soon.
Very, very soon. And what we're going to do right now, today, is review episode 4 of Loki, titled The Nexus Event. Now, Benhameen, I know I had some things to say about episode 3 where I wasn't really feeling it like that. But boy, oh boy, was I feeling episode 4. 4 I was gagging. 4th, I had my mouth on the floor.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
We really don't have a basic plot written down for this one. But
that's okay.
But yeah, things happened. A lot of shit happened in this episode. We told you last week that 3 was a bridge to 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. I can now reveal this information that I've been holding since before this show even started. We've been speaking with Kate Herron, the director of the entire series, and they told me that episode 5 is the one.
It's
so
the
if
one
you
to watch.
thought 4, because I thought 4 was a lot.
I thought 4
was a lot. We got big things coming for 5 and even bigger things that I'm not even going to talk about just yet.
Well, considering the way this episode ended with that after credits scene, that tracks. So I'm looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. But before we get all the way down there, we got to start at the very top and begin with our themes of the episode. And the first theme is falling in love with yourself, a.k.a. friendship.
Ugh. Now,
this is now, Ben, it was the same kind of feeling I had because this was even though I really love this episode, this is the weird part of the episode for me and the weird part of where they're going with this, where I think they're going with this. We see what appears to be Loki and Sylvie generating some form of relationship, but I'm not sure how to express it because technically this is the same person. This is the same being, just different variants of that same being falling in love with themselves. Now, the thing is, I want to be let's talk about the different ways we mean when we say falling in love, right? Because we may not necessarily be meaning romantic love. We could be also meaning just self-love. And that's one of the facets that I got from this, that because technically this is Loki falling in love with Loki, he's accepting or they are accepting themselves. So that's one way to look at it. What do you think about that, Ben? Just as a facet, not as the definition.
I'm hoping that's the way. As much as on this show we have been proven, correct in some of our theories, I have to say that both of us, I think, was like, nah, that wasn't no love, lovey-dovey relationship or any of that. I didn't feel any of that.
We was very loud about that. I hope we wasn't loud and wrong, but we were very loud about like, nah. I just didn't want it from a romantic perspective. And mainly because, and I know this is not the definition of the word, but it felt like incest. And
yeah, I didn't get that.
It was weird, but then it's just like, there's no word for falling in love with your own variant, right? Like, there's no definition for that. So is it wrong? Like, it's weird. I won't lie. I felt weird about it because even though there is no familial relationship, that they're not brother and sister or anything, but they technically are the same Loki.
Yeah.
Is it just because I'm a human being and again we don't contemplate 6D and 7D space that I just don't get it, or is it something more? And just for me, I understood, like, when it comes to Loki and Sylvie, the whole point of them is like they're coming to terms with the apocalypse and understanding each other and falling for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
look, all right. As written on the show, it seems to be some type of romantic love. Whether or not this is a one-sided or two-sided affair remains to be seen. But yes, what's B15 and Mobius see the branch, and they both are like, we've never seen anything like this before, ever, in all of our things. Mobius tells Loki that them coming together will destroy worlds, etc., blah, blah, all this, oh, no. Mm-hmm. So it seems to be written as romantic love.
Right. Now, what you just said just reminded me of a point that I kept thinking, like, this is very sci-fi. This is a sci-fi trope where it's just like, and I've said it, I may have said it before, where in a lot of stories it's like you shouldn't meet your doppelganger or you shouldn't meet yourself, whether it's like time travel, whether it's just like a copy of you, because like that will cause a singularity or something, and the world explodes. And I feel like that they're pulling from that when it comes to this relationship. Is that where they go? Is that why they say, and is that also why a branch formed? Because it's like that is indeed like world bending stuff that's not supposed to happen.
I think it's more. That's part of it, but it's also with the actual story that they're telling on this series. And it goes into something we're going to discuss a little later, like who is the big bad of this series. But whoever is behind the TVA, and why I think it's this person behind the TVA, doesn't want Lokis, right? Lokis in particular are a problem to their plans.
Plural.
So when two Lokis come together, possibly smash, possibly create another child.
Possibly smash, please.
It happens. You know what I mean? And so let's say they create a child. That's a completely different, timeline branch than whatever has been going on. But I really think it has to do with the fact that it's not even just about the kid. It's about two Lokis, because one Loki is bad enough for this person's plans. So if two of them are together and conniving, actually coming together, making plans.
Yeah.
It's going to really F with them. So that's why I think it's such a problem to the TVA and the person behind it.
Ben, if you saw a female version of yourself and met up with them, would you smash? Do you love yourself that much?
I don't feel like I'm narcissistic enough.
I remember that's what Mobius also said about Loki. He loves himself enough, or he believes in himself enough for everybody else. So do you believe in yourself? Do you love yourself so much where you saw yourself, you would fall in love with yourself? And that's what I mean when I'm like, this good to look at it different ways, because you know how people say like you need to love yourself first before you can love anybody else?
Yeah.
So
I thought I'd fall in love with myself, but I'm not. No.
And also I'm thinking that way because it feels less creepy to me.
Yeah. No, I doubt I could fall in love with myself. Smashing myself, that's the I mean, who
You're really
doesn't?
thinking about it though. That's
I
I didn't think
who
it was going to
doesn't?
actually
You know,
think
like,
seriously.
you know, hey, don't knock masturbation. It's sex with someone I love.
And also in terms of this theme of falling in love with yourself and also the other part of it, friendship, the other part of love, which is friendship. I thought another part of this where was Ravonna and Mobius's relationship
That shit
because
is friendly.
now not because of smashing each other or anything like that,
No.
but at least, and to me, this is all predicated on a lie now. But
Yeah.
Ravonna says that their relationship is special and different, and that their friendship deserves to be protected. Just in terms of when she's like pretty much like egging him on about you gotta catch these Lokis, you gotta end this and stand up for the TVA. Now we know. Now later we know why she's saying all this, or feel like we know why. But how do you feel about their relationship, Ben? And again, not romantic, just their friendship.
That shit sounds like abuser talk to me. I don't know.
Ooh, it does sound like abuser talk.
I don't know about you, but you know, from what I've heard, that sounds like abuser talk to me. Like, nah.
I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, Ravonna is definitely an abuser, and Mobius, because of her abuse, has Stockholm syndrome and is, you know, falling in love with his abusers, and then inflicts that same abuse on others. There's a term for that too, you know, but like the sins of the father, you know, revisited upon the child, etc. But that's exactly what happens in this episode. We see Ravonna bold-faced lying to this man.
Bold-faced lying.
Bold-faced lying. And then this man turns around and bold-faced lies to Loki. Tortures Loki the same way he was tortured by Ravonna. It's grimy.
Mm-hmm. And that actually leads perfectly right into our next theme, which is the lies you tell yourself.
But before we get to that, I have to give a big shout out right here. I got a big shout out to our listener of the show, my brother Andrew's daughter, Brisa, because she's a big fan of the show. So big shouts to you. And also, I just wanted to share that she said she does not like the Loki-Sylvie relationship, but she does feel that it's in character for Loki to fall in love with himself.
It makes sense.
Narcissistic enough to fall in love with himself. She also does not have faith in men and writers' rooms, and so she does believe that this will lead to them being romantically inclined together, which
I don't blame you, Brisa. I'm with it's a little strange to me, but again, I'm gonna let it go where they need it to go and see what happens, because this series is turning out to be really cool.
Definitely is, and I have faith in the writers' room so far. I'm not, you know, knocking any decision they've made as of yet.
I love that the hesitant as of yet.
As of yet, you know, I got to see how it all plays out. That's what I always say. Let me see to the ending, and then we judge the writing, because it's like, who knows what y'all do and how that affects what I've seen already.
Exactly. In terms of the theme of the lies you tell yourself, you mentioned it, Ben, where there's all this double speak, if you're being honest, a lot of double speak between everybody, particularly when it comes to how the TVA operates within internally and externally. Specifically, we see when Loki, a few episodes back, when Loki called Mobius the biggest liar for not basically or I don't know. At that point, it was, you could take it two ways. You could say that when Loki told Mobius that everyone was variants, typically what happens is your first thought is to be defensive and to defend what you know as the status quo, defend what you know and you love. Someone said, oh, you know, I seen your mama go, I seen her go rob a bank. You're going to be like, nah,
Not my mama.
Not my mama. There's no way. Again, maybe if your mama's a master, you know,
He's like,
criminal,
word, damn
maybe it's cool. But a lot of people, technically, people would be like, no, there's no way. I wouldn't believe it. And the person can show you so many, like they can show you so many receipts, and you still be like, all right, nigga, relax. That will never happen. Same situation here. I mean, not to say that Mobius has all the reasons to believe Loki, but Mobius knows when Loki is lying. He knows when Loki is telling the truth. And to me, Mobius has especially adept at reading Loki and understanding how he moves. Just like when they was in the Ren Fair and Loki was lying, Loki seemed real serious. Like, I believed him, and I didn't realize it was Cap, but like, it was so straightforward, and he was so well played. Cap. And Mobius was like, nah, Cap. And then kept it moving. And I was like, oh, and it really was. So I just feel like because Mobius is so adept at that and really understanding when Loki is being truthful, for him to just purposefully be like, nah, I don't believe you, again, lying to yourself.
That is a very good point, and shout outs to you because even when I read the notes, I was like, "Wait, I didn't get how you pulled the Ren Fair, together with what Loki is telling Mobius in that scene, and how Mobius straight is like, nah, you're lying."
I mean, you can tell nobody else knew, including me, and I'm sure not the only one watching. Maybe there's some real
I knew he was
smart
lying.
asses out there that knew.
I think I knew right when Mobius started, because at one point
when Mobius started looking at him like, I don't know, fam.
When he starts saying the ridiculous shit, he goes on too far with it, and it becomes ridiculous.
And what did they say about lying? Good lies, just keep it simple, right? Once you start going off the deep end, we know that you making up a story.
And I just saw that in a movie last night. Someone said whenever someone is lying, they often start adding on too many details.
You add on too many details, exactly. But in this case, like I said, it just... Everyone, at least in the storyline in the show, it seemed like they was gonna take Loki's word for it, and then it seemed only Mobius was like, "Nah, I see you, and I'm not gonna hold you, but this is what it is." So because of that, again, I'm just like, Mobius is just internalizing just how he feels, or as he says, I believe in it because I want to believe, because I love the TVA, because this is my life. So he's continuously, in fact, telling himself a lie. And it's not until later when he realizes that Loki was telling the complete truth. Or I'm not going to say realizes, but accepts that Loki was telling the truth.
Because he knew from the gate that Loki was telling the truth, but he just, because of his Stockholm syndrome and his abuse, and also probably falling for the pretty privilege of Ravonna, that he, sucks it up. Because he is, this has been, it seems to be that Mobius has been erased and returned several times at this point. And mind wiped something, because the rings in the office.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the rings in the office, the other analyst that he doesn't know about when he's her favorite analyst, and we still haven't seen any other analysts yet, leads everything that Mobius has been erased and returned several times. And so his abuse is ridiculous, and he just doesn't know any of it. So he's every time just like, oh, there's Ravonna, my good boss, and the TVA who I love. They can't be wrong, because his life is so short. He's like, I don't know how long I've been here, because he doesn't remember any of this shit. So it's like, to him, he's been there forever, or maybe he doesn't even, it might just feel like a few days for him, or who knows how it really feels. He probably has all kind of blank spots in his memory.
Absolutely. And if this show does any, I guess, homages to the comics, there's even a few panels where you see multiple versions of Mobius in one room. And I think at that point he was aware of it, like it was part of the process. But they may have a scene like that.
Oh, I feel it. I feel it coming in episode 5. I definitely feel multiple Moby. If not, my other theory is that Mobius will not return until we see him on a jet ski somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my own, like, a post-credit scene. But I can't see that because there's 2 episodes left, and I feel like that'd be rough to not have any Mobius for 2 more episodes.
At least in the after credit scene, right? You'll see
that's my theory. It's like one of them would be an after credit scene of just him riding a jet ski, or him and Tom riding a jet ski, something.
Aww.
But I don't see. But I don't really believe that, because I believe that we're going to see more Mobius. But I do believe that we will see him on a jet ski before this is over.
Right. And because of Mobius's how he reads people so well, he probably knows truly that Ravonna has been lying to him. Like, especially, I felt that energy when they were having that back and forth in the room. Well, first of all, Ravonna's just a terrible liar, and I'm generally good at reading people and their energies, and it's just all of that. It was just too much. All of that, like it was too Girl Scout of her, of like, let's protect the TVA and like, it was just like, you are a little too over this, like a little too much for this. So I just felt like Mobius knows something is up. Like, even he had questioned her on one thing, and then we see later when he does his whole switcheroo with the Tempads that he clearly has some type of mistrust in her.
Well, I mean, obviously he did that switcheroo right there. So even during that conversation, he wasn't feeling it. It definitely reminded me of Goodfellas. For those who've seen Goodfellas, at one point, Joe Pesci's character gets made, which means he gets made into, the mafia. Like, he's a good fella. He's a made man. Okay. He's untouchable and all that. But before, he's just a little street hood gangster. Unfortunately for him, he killed a made man before this, and so they're like, okay, we're going to take you to get made, everything. He's all hype. His mother, dresses him up for the day. They drive him to this house.
That dresses him up.
Oh no, they do. Yeah, she good. Puts him in his nice suit. He's going to get made. She's all happy. Yeah, they drive him to this house. He walks into the room with two men behind him, and there's no one in the room. And he's like, "Oh fuck!" And they shoot him in the back of the head.
Quiet for you, fam.
Quiet for you. And that's exactly how it felt when she was like, "Oh, the Time Lords want to see you now. They want you to personally oversee this joint. They wanted to personally oversee it because she was going to stick that shit right in his back like she did to poor Loki."
Gosh. And since we're talking about Ravonna and this lies, is she then lying to herself considering she knows the truth? Or is there something else going on? What is her mind just so twisted up right now?
Look.
That's your girl.
That's
Tell
my
us,
girl.
Benhameen.
Yeah, it hurts because, I am...
Hurts when breathe.
Hurts when breathe because I'm a big fan of Ravonna because I'm a big fan of Gugu. And I rewatched the episode, as... Tatiana and Chica know I was going off in the chat defending her. And then I rewatched the episode. Big defense. Just because I love Google so much. Whatever, don't matter what. So I rewatched the episode and I was like, God damn, this girl's a monster. Like, wow, what a monster. A monster lady. Because even in the first watch, when she murked Mobius, dog, I was like, I did the Tony, stop, Tony, no. I did it, y'all. I was like, Mobius, no. It hurt. I was so hurt. And Loki, I was like, whatever. But Mobius, I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh, Loki's not your brother no more. He's not part of your family, part of the community anymore.
True. I didn't appreciate the black on black violence in that scene. I definitely did not appreciate that at all. I did not appreciate Ravonna murking out I always did these numbers confused. C20. So, a lot of black on black violence in this episode.
B15 is Wunmi Masako's.
Yeah, but she already murked C20. Wunmi just disappeared. She got knocked.
Right. She got her info was like.
No, she took that hard left and dropped, and maybe she crawled out of the room after that, but I don't know because she was cold for a second.
She reminds me of that old gif of the boy that's like does the peace sign and then he just fades away. Like that was B15 for real. She out.
She took that punch. I don't know what happened to her after that. She was like, all right, that's enough of this. I didn't seen enough. All right. Y'all white people doing some other shit over here. I'm strong. I'm a dip.
Let's move on to the next theme, Ben.
Wait. I just gotta end this with, I'm not sure with what is going on with Ravonna.
Yes.
I don't know if she's like completely horribly evil or she's definitely lying about not knowing why Shorty's a variant. That's a bold-faced lie, I feel. It was not, even though I got major M. Bison vibes from that one, it was a Tuesday. That was major right there. That was such a
Ravonna knows so much. Like she is a high-level figure in the TVA.
Yes.
For someone who have it looks like her door is steps away from the golden elevator that takes them, if it's even an elevator at all, but that takes them to the fucking Wizard of Oz room and shit. Like, if anything, she always talks about, well, the time gears are this and time gears that. She has their ear. Now, to what degree she believes that, like, for example, when they go into the chambers, when all the fisticuffs happen after everything's said and done, she doesn't seem too particularly surprised that they were androids. Like,
no.
Like she didn't, and shout out to Chica, our social media manager. She wasn't surprised that they were Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. Like she was just like, oh, okay, there's mans. Like
I wanted to make that joke since I saw the episode, and I was like, I can't spoil this for people, but I was like, the timekeepers are Chuck E. Cheese. I had that shit in drafts, and I just was like, no, I can't do this.
Well, my thing is that reaction, non-reaction. Also, I'm like, okay, how much does she really know, and to what degree?
How many nuts you know? A lot.
A lot. How many lies you got? A lot.
A lot. Yeah, I think she knows a whole hell of a lot. Tara Strong, the voice of Miss Minutes, has said that Miss Minutes knows a lot. So but this is my thing, just from what we've seen in this episode, right? At the very beginning, we see her go and meet with them. So like, what was said in that? Oh, what up, robots? Or did the real leader come out for that meeting?
I had originally thought that she was the
real leader.
hand in the puppet's ass. She was the whole Wizard of Oz situation. So, and it still could technically be the case, which would also lead to why she wasn't so super surprised about shit. But who knows?
Yep, we'll get into that though in a later theme. Let's get to this next one.
All right, the next one is all coming together, or a Nexus event. So which one is it? Is everything coming together, or is this really just a branch to destroy the universe, as they claim? This fourth episode is focused on this Nexus event created by Loki and Sylvie falling in love, as we see on Lamentis 1 right before they get rescued, essentially. They touch each other, and at that moment, as you mentioned before, Ben, I mean, at the TVA, they see this wild branch appear.
Yeah.
And it's alarming. And I'm just like, well, branches appear all the time. Even Ravonna was saying, you know how hard it is to keep this timeline in check? It's because branches are happening all the fucking time, okay? So why is this branch so special?
Because, like I said, it's two Lokis coming together. And, I mean, this is all tying into who we think the big bad is, but I'll get into that next. But yes, I do believe the big bad has a particular affinity or fascination or problem with Loki's, you know? And because of that, when you have two of them together, like I said, that's just too much. And so, once again, all of the TVA is an illusion, right? We can accept that now. We've already seen like you said, the puppets, the hand up the ass. We don't know whose hand it is yet, but there's puppets. Remember, there's this whole, idea that it's this infinite place. That might all be fake. Remember, everything Mobius is telling Loki is lies to him as well.
Yes.
So everything we've seen from Miss Minutes, the sacred timeline, lies. A multiversal war back in the past, probably a lie. Everything we've seen, even the branches and that monitor that they're monitoring them on, lying to the TVA.
Miseducation of Mobius and Mobius.
Oh, shit. That's a t-shirt. With divot
Poor
on
guy.
it.
Yo.
Not big up divot. So yeah, what I'm thinking is that it is all a fabrication. It's something that Loki said, and let's just get into this Nets theme because I think that's about it for Nets' event. It's basically the title episode, what's happening right here. But the big theme, and as we are rolling towards the end, is who is the big bad of it all? Who is the hand up the puppet's ass?
Right. Now, we had originally was like Kang could be potentially behind all this, but then as we continue, we started pulling back from that theory.
Hard body. I'm pulling back hard body. Just because I love Mr. Jonathan Majors, I do believe that Kang will show up at some point in this series. But I also argue that it'd be weak for him to show up in an after credit scene like he's Thanos or something. We've already seen that done.
Especially because we know he's going to be in a movie.
Yeah, so it's like we already know. It wasn't like when Thanos showed up, you were like, what? So I was, nigga. I lost it. I remember there was a couple next to me, and the girl with the dude was like, who is that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can understand that.
Back then, nobody knew. Now,
it's right. It's only going to hit us for certain people. But my thing is, technically, it could work for Kang, but I don't think Marvel's going to do the same thing twice.
There you go.
But then also people argue that there's the same things happen in every Marvel movie.
Ooh.
So I don't.
Ooh. And that goes into who's the big bad too. Ooh. Same thing's happening.
I don't know, but I just know that we were pulling away from that theory of Kang.
Yes, I feel like the hints towards Kang, the constant, focus on the one timekeeper face who resembles Kang, the fact that they chopped that head off of that Kang this week, all these constant hints that Kang, it just seems to be red herring, big misdirection, and I'm going to focus and stay on that.
Okay.
All right?
Is it lion-ass liar Ravonna?
Lion-ass Ravonna. Doubtful. Because of evidence that we've seen in this episode. She is extremely frightened when Sylvie is going to, because look, there's a very something particular about that scene. Sylvie has the weapon that has the spear and the eraser on it, right?
Yes.
So when she's aiming the eraser at Sylvie, she's like, do it. Because when she's aiming at a Ravonna, she's like, do it. Because she knows that, she's going to go to some other world. She's going to go someplace else.
Die.
She knows she's not going to die, but that spear to the chest will dun her off like them guards got dunned off. But then when she's like, tell me everything, immediately this woman cracks. Like, fuck, I'm fucked, because that's that fear. That feels like that Stockholm, that, abuser, some abuser abusing an abuser, like down the line. I feel like Ravonna is being abused by somebody, which would tie into the Kang theory, because Kang in the comics definitely be abusing the shit out of her. She abused the shit out of him. It'd be,
that
it's
is
a mutual
one of the
abuse
worst
relationship.
relationships I've ever read.
Fam, and imagine being a kid reading this shit at like 12. And I remember when she showed up with another Kang and shot this in the main Kang in the back.
She shot the other Kang.
Shot the main, like the Kang I'd always know, just shot him in the back.
Okay,
Hurt.
so if it's neither King nor Ravonna, is it no one? Is it the TVA itself?
All right, there's this idea, right? Because in the comics, the TVA is actually created by the one who remains, the last working member of the TVA, right?
Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes in this case, probably. So sometime in the future, Miss Minutes goes back or creates the timekeepers and sends them back in time to the beginning of time to thus establish this whole line. And so it becomes this bureaucracy that, because it's so huge, it's so big, and the rules are established, so well. Okay, this is what happens, we got to maintain this line. No one is really running it. And it's just going on, and it's, too big to fail, whatever.
Too big to fail, right.
Yep.
Oh, damn.
I can see it, but doubtful. Yeah. And finally, I think finally, right?
Yeah.
I think this is pretty much it. I might have a few other ideas, but this is the one I'm leaning towards most, and why I've been talking this way during the whole episode, it is Loki themselves. Not the Loki we've seen, not the Loki, not Sylvie, but yet another Loki. First off, it just has to deal with one of the rules of writing, or not rules, but just, good writing. Like, you're running out of space right here. So for them to introduce a Kang, unless they do some type of like Miss Minutes movie where she explains Kang in like 5 minutes real quick, it would be really wild for the audience who doesn't know anything about Kang. That goes for anyone else, like the Beyonder I've heard. Shout out to my brother Andrew again. He was talking about the Living Tribunal, who's a character for the comics who is this 3-headed judge who's like a Galactus level being, maybe even bigger than Galactus, because they just judge the universe, basically, the Living Tribunal. And they can rewrite reality, do whatever they want. They're like, nah, this don't work, you out of here. It's that type of thing. So, yeah, but once again, explaining that, it's going to be a lot. Explaining the one who remains and how they created that might be, that could happen in a Miss Minutes movie. I can even see Kang happening in I can see a lot happening in a Miss Minutes movie for that matter. Because I could see a lot being explained, like, everything you saw before was lies, this is the truth. Or what we want to tell you is the truth right now. But I do believe it is a Loki behind it all, because it seems to be everything that has been written and said in the show leads up to this. Loki calls the TVA this grand illusion, the biggest illusion ever. He asks, is it the biggest power in the universe? What does Loki always want? To be the biggest power in the universe. What has Loki always done in everything we've seen him do? Fail. Lose over and over and over again. Get told you can't be anything. In fact, in this episode, Mobius tells me you can be good. You can be anything. But what happens when nobody tells Loki that? What happens in the variant world where Loki wins? Right? What happens in the world where he wins in the Battle of New York? Because, all right, this also leads into this theory. In the post-credit scene, when we see the Lokis, they're assembled in what looks like a decimated, probably New York, because the Avengers Tower is in the background. So what if Loki won? This is the result of that. Earth was destroyed. He destroys Asgard and Midgard in his attempt for power. So then he sends Lokis to that world, like, all right, y'all just chill out there, whatever, I'm done with y'all. I don't get why he's not just completely, because maybe they're a god, they're very tough to kill, etc. Like he says, when you kill me, I just return. Kill me again, I'll be back, whatever. But that would explain why with the TVA, there's a particular fascination with Loki, and why 2 Lokis would be such a problem to one Loki who's like, yo, if 2 of them can come together, they can definitely figure out what I'm doing and fuck me up. So I got to knock this out now.
That whole thing makes a lot of sense, and also makes sense why within this, whatever this nega region, neverworld place that they're in, or that Loki's in, as we see in the after credit scene, why you see other Lokis chilling there. And we're going to get into their characters in a minute, but that would make a lot of sense. Like, Like you would, yeah. Like if you're in a place where you get stabbed with the with the pruning wand and you don't really die, you just get converted to some other place. Like you might see one of you, right? Like you might see one variant, but I mean to see 50, 40 Lokis is like, okay, there I see a pattern happening. So to your point, yeah.
Oh shit. True story. When I got locked up in Dubai, right? The first night I get to the main jail at the airport, because they have a jail at the airport. I walk in, in the middle of the night. This one dude realizes I speak English and he's talking to me and shit. He's like, okay, you can come sleep in my cell tonight and tomorrow you can go in the cell with the Rastas. I was like, there's enough Rastas in here where there's...
Wait. You got put in the Rasta variant cell?
Yes, and that's but once again, like you just said, that's what was... I was like, fuck, I should have never came here. Because if there's enough Rastas in the cell when I get there in a place that's very transient, where they move you in and out of that, jail.
Oh, no.
But there's enough Rastas to fill a cell. They do not fuck with Rastas here. Like they don't fuck with Lokis on the timeline.
You
don't
were
go
the
to
Loki of Dubai.
Don't go to Dubai, folks, especially if you got dreads. Let me tell you.
I'm so sorry, Ben-Ami.
Problematic. Straight shout out to my brothers though. That's
it's funny in hindsight, but it's not funny when it was happening.
It was the first night. It was so hilarious. It was like, wait a minute, there's a cell of Rastas, and I look over like the cell was like right across the way, and I see all these Rastas sleeping in there, and I'm like, fuck.
Well. Let's actually pull that into this story because where Loki is seems to essentially be a prison, right?
Yes.
So, and because all of these variants have been relegated to this prison, they can't do anything. They can't disrupt anything. That's why no one ever hears from them. There's never any issue. But then what happens when the right one shows up? Is this variant Loki that just got dropped in there, is he going to be the right one to take him out? Who's going to get him out of there?
Well, what we've seen in one of the previews is the vote Loki scene, right? We've seen that in several previews where he's in the costume from the comics Vote Loki, and he seems to be in this apocalyptic region. Once again, though, fucking shout out to Marvel and how they flipped these trailers on us, because they flipped the trailer on us.
Changed it.
Oh, did they? Hard body with the shot of Loki and Sylvie sitting on the Lamentus. It is clear skies in the trailer.
Yep.
Clear blue, clear purple skies. And none of this apocalyptic destruction.
For our nurse listeners, no, we've been saying never trust a Marvel trailer.
Yes. But once again, we're going to trust the Marvel trailers for this part, because in the scene with Vote Loki, he utters the classic line like, who did you think, or something, who did you expect?
Who did you expect?
Yeah, who did you expect? And all these Mad Max looking dudes are putting their swords around him, and it looks like the effed up part. Shout out to, I want to say, Screen Crush. They pointed out something that's in the background of one of those shots. There's this video game in the background that doesn't exist. And it's part of this whole urban myth about this video game that was put out by the FBI to brainwash the youth. And that's in that shot. All right.
Conspiracy theory with the FBI? No way.
And also remember like how they showed us with what's my man who jumped out of the plane. Like Loki seems to have been involved in a lot of conspiracy theories throughout humanity. So I think that's why we see that in that arcade.
For unexplainable events.
Yes. B. Dalton? No, not B. Dalton. That's the bookstore.
But I know what you're talking about. But
I can't remember the man's name.
Makes sense. All right, let's move on to the characters.
One last thing on that before we leave that.
Okay.
Because this also relates to something we were saying earlier. Marvel repeating itself, right?
Yes.
What was the first one? WandaVision. Wanda fights a negative version of herself, basically Agatha, or Wanda gone bad, while Vision fights Vision. Winter Soldier. Falcon fights Captain America fights Captain America, right? The bad version of them, the one who doesn't have the same morals that Steve has, while what's name had the morals that Steve has.
Right. So
leading down the line, the Loki seems to lead to Loki fighting Loki.
And this is another thing, like you just made me remember, like with the whole thing about Captain America. So that he was fighting his variant. Mm-hmm. Now that we understand, now we have the definition of, at least the Marvel definition of variant. Mm-hmm. And that didn't cause an issue.
But wait, why would you say that? Who was a variant? Oh, you mean when Steve the two Rogers. Caps were fighting in...
Yes.
But okay, and I've seen the writers say this too, that the plot holes of Endgame have been fodder for what they're doing on this show.
Okay.
So that might come up, But once again, they've already seemed to explain that away with that one line. Oh, everything the Avengers did was supposed to happen.
Right.
Don't worry about it, folks. We'll be here all day with pencils forming diagrams. Let's keep it moving. That was a great line. Good writing, concise and to the point.
In terms of characters, we see a return of an old character we haven't seen since Thor: Dark World. We see Sif.
Yes.
And I actually liked seeing Sif again. I thought that was cool. What did you think about seeing her?
Oh, I love seeing her. Yeah, Sif goes back to me as a kid. I used to be a big Norse myth reader, when I was a kid, because I was big Dungeons and Dragons. So any myth, I read every, Roman, Greek, Norse, anything, I could get my hands on. And so Sif was always a favorite character. And in Marvel, she was a favorite character, mainly just because I liked her look. She has this dope ass red and white costume. And so I just always loved her from a kid. Sif was just one of my favorites. So,
and is she part of what's that name of that? I call them a troop. But what's the name of the group? The
Warriors 3. She's not really part of them. They are 3. It's the Warriors 3. And then Sif is more off on her own all the time. Doing her own thing. But the scene that we see her in with her hair being cut is ill for a lot of reasons because it relates to Asgardian myth. There's this myth where Loki cuts off Sif's hair because at this point, I think Sif is betrothed to Thor. He accuses her of having an affair with him, all kind of trifling shit like Loki does. But in one of these myths, he cuts off her hair. When Thor finds out, he goes and threatens Loki and forces the dwarves. He makes Loki go to the dwarves and get a headpiece made for Sif. And
to kind of cover her
to cover up her hair. And at the same time,
got her a wig.
Mates
went to Tay and got her a wig. I see you.
Got her shit right, laid and in the shade, baby. But with this leads to, along with the headpiece, it also leads to the creation of many other gifts for other Asgardians, such as Odin's spear Gungnir and the mighty hammer
Mjolnir. Okay, so that conversation, because I know that the dwarves helped to build that. So, so this was this event or this mischief created by Loki was kind of the precursor to all of these mythical weapons being forged. By the dwarves.
So the Thor getting his hammer, which is wild.
So Loki is absolutely needed, and also kind of back to what the TVA was saying was like, well, Loki, you're there to make the heroes better.
Ouch.
Yeah. Oops. But good seeing Sif, even though she was kicking Loki in the nuts for a while and telling him that he wasn't worth shit, or that version of her anyway. That is a different type of pain. Just being forced to relive a moment that just brings you down several levels, every time, over and over.
It's unimaginable too. Like an Asgardian woman kicking you in the nuts, kneeing you in the nuts over and over again.
But also, rightfully so, basically saying you're trash.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah,
it felt like every 10 seconds.
And also, like we said, telling him you deserve to be alone.
Yo!
Over and over again after the knee to the nuts.
That's some evil shit. For that to be a type of prison, that's some evil shit. That's beyond the pale.
And once again, Mobius just threw my mans in there with no problem. Like Mobius, even though he is, tortured, it seems, and, abused, he's also a really horrible abuser.
It feels like that's TVA's version of waterboarding.
Yeah, that's up there. That's some. And I thought it was ill how the door to the thing was red instead of yellow, and it gave me big hell vibes. And shout out to Al Ewing, because Al Ewing actually uses that in the Mortal Hulk, where it is there's a green door because of the gamma that leads to hell, but the red door is when you're stuck.
Wow, and there's no coming out of that.
Nah. When the red door is on that side, you ain't going through. You stuck in hell.
Let's talk about the characters that we saw in the after credit scenes. We see what appears to be classic Loki wearing the kind of traditional, I think a Silver Age costume.
Yep.
Well, with the green and the yellow and the big overly aggressive horns and things like that. Played by Richard E. Grant.
Legend.
Big legend. If he looks familiar to you, it's because he played General Eric Pride in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. He also was on Game of Thrones as Inzambaro. And according to IMDb, he's going to appear in episodes 4 through 6.
Yeah.
So he's going to be, obviously we just saw 4, so he's going to be a major key for the rest of the show. And what do you think he represents? So can you tell me more about what he represents, Ben?
All right, well, it's two sides, well, a few things too, but like in the comments, once again, going back to the Agent of Asgard run that we talked before, where Kid Loki is trying to redeem himself and get away from all the things, because, all right, long story short, in the comments, right, for most of Loki's publication history, he is a straight up and down villain. Like, he's responsible for the Avengers coming together, which why he was responsible for the Avengers coming together in the MCU, et cetera, et cetera. But he is a villain all the time, you know, all the way, pretty much evil. There's a lot of wild, evil shit. And then at one point in the comics is even part of what causes Ragnarok to happen, right? So everybody gets destroyed, everybody gets killed. Loki makes a deal with Hela to not put his name in the Book of the Dead. And so he's reborn as Kid Loki. When he's reborn as Kid Loki, he's like, Kid Loki, though, is like, yo, I don't want to be that Loki, you know, from before, right?
Yeah.
But
he was an asshole.
Yeah, he's an asshole and he's evil. But at the same time, that dead, evil Loki is still haunting Kid Loki and telling him how, yo, you still turn into me, et cetera, and actually plotting to get him to turn into him. And then at one point, even kills that Kid Loki and takes over his body. And so, the actual Kid Loki that we know is actually this evil Loki who is still struggling not to be evil, but is actually pretty evil. So, the classic Loki that we know and see right there probably represents that Loki who is this
evil Loki,
pretty much evil, you know, much more of a straightforward, as we see with the costume. It's like the whole goofiness of it. It's just like, you know, good versus evil, because the idea of Loki as an anti-hero didn't really come in until the MCU. Before that, like, as I grew up in the comics, it was just villain, you know. Loki was always the villain. There was no question, like, it was none of this brotherly shit between him and Thor. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I can't lie, because there's there's a moment when Odin dies in the comics and both Loki and Thor yell out "father," and it is one of the most.
Oh, don't do that. That
dog,
was sad.
it's crushing. Like, it's like, oh yeah, and that was way before the MCU. So there was always hints of this stuff. Yeah, because goddamn, I just thought of that and it hurts.
So you mentioned Kid Loki several times. He was represented on screen by relative newcomer Jack Veal. We see Kid Loki holding it's either an alligator or a crocodile. All you zoologists out there, go ahead and correct me. I don't care.
I thought it was a Komodo dragon at first, a young Komodo.
Okay.
Yep.
Alligator crocodile with the crown. I saw that the boy's crown seems to have the Loki symbol, but also has winged ends like Thor's classic helmet. So again, that could be he could essentially what you were saying before, Ben. Like, Kid Loki's kind of that emergence or the merging of like those two facets of Loki, where he's not evil, he's not good or bad. He's just kind of just like a perfect balance of it.
That's
which
funny.
you can say all of them, but
I never realized that he does have, even in the comics. That's straight from the comics, that he does, like, that his is more the feathers, and then it turns to the horns. Once oh shit. Is that once he gets got? I think so.
Okay.
That comic is dark.
It's probably one we all should be reading too.
It is so dark, though. Let me warn y'all.
And then finally, you get who is credited as boastful Loki, or just to be very plain, Black Loki, played by Diobia Opere. Diobia, he actually played Ariel Hota in Game of Thrones.
Scumbag.
So now, okay. See, I don't even remember.
You don't remember big scumbag energy.
Him! Oh,
that's
God.
the man who got trapped in the vault. The man who stole the dragon.
I just remember, like, yo, out of the little bit of Black people that was in this show, this is what you got to end up being. Now I remember. Oh my God.
Big scumbag energy.
Okay. Well, him and Richard E. Grant, you know, they have the Game of Thrones heritage together. But as I mentioned, he's credited as boastful Loki, holding what to me appeared to be like a dwarf built makeshift Loki version of Mjolnir, because it doesn't look like a regular hammer like Mjolnir. It looks like what do they call it? Reclaimed pieces of other things built together.
It is, to me, it appears to be a wrench, a very large
like
wrench.
Like a wrench, right. And
attached to
things.
A steel girder.
Okay.
A piece of steel girder as the hammer. And so it looks like something you would build in this apocalyptic land that you're trapped in.
Okay. Now, you explained right here, you have a note here that explains why he's potentially called boastful Loki. Now, boastful typically means you too chatty, you capping a lot.
Yeah, and like we've said before, Loki is the god of cap, but I do believe that boastful Loki is the true god of cap and built the hammer because he wants to be like Thor. And so he wants to show his strength and everything, even though we know it ain't no real Mjolnir, because these niggas is, in desolate land, and it don't look like, that, like we said, it looks like a piece of junk thrown together.
Yeah. Okay.
No
so
shots.
You're saying he may not even have powers at this point?
I definitely don't think he got no lightning
black
powers.
Man ain't gotta have powers. Got to be the liar. What's that about? The black man. No, I'm joking.
I was kind of upset when I read boastful Loki for the black one. I was like, wow, all right, okay, let's see how this plays out.
The exaggerated swagger of a black team. Isn't that IGN who did that for Spider-Man? Moving on to characters. We have young Sylvie, as we saw at the beginning, played by Kaylee Fleming. She should be also familiar because she plays Judith Grimes in The Walking Dead. She also played young Rey in Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker and The Force Awakens, which is wild. This girl has some legendary things under her belt already, and she's just a young girl.
Respect the shooter boy, young Judith Grimes boy. Judith Grimes, respect the shooter boy.
Yo.
Judith be laying them down in them later seasons. I don't know if that's still Shorty playing her because they aged her up recently, but but even before that, I think young Kaylee was putting them caps on them.
Well, it's still her because it says she's, or at least what she filmed already. It says she's credited with The Walking Dead through 2022.
Oh, so she's the aged up version. So she definitely shooting caps. She been busting. She got Rick's hat, everything, yo. She going to work.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Then we have to go back to our homegirl, Sylvie, again, played by Sophia DiMartino. When we see that when she was first picked up by the TVA when she was a child, back when it was, as we were both correct on understanding that Ravonna used to be a hunter. She used to be A23. Mm-hmm. And what we come to understand is Sylvie's general existence itself is considered a violation of the sacred timeline. That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
What is it just about her existing? Is it because she's a female version? Because every Loki we've seen from those, obviously from the end, the after credit scene, but also when they talk about the Lokis from the what is that? The holograms?
Yep.
And every time even when they're referring to Loki, when they were first looking for her, they kept saying he.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what confuses me now, because clearly Ravonna knew everything. And while everyone, including her, kept saying he when they were talking about catching this other variant, Ravonna knew that it was really a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, wait. So, there's so many lies. There's so many lies twisted in here. But it goes back to my question of why is just her existence an issue? Because when they say, and unfortunately what they do, they go, well, what did you do wrong? And and you saw, she was playing with toys. She wasn't even doing shit. She ain't did shit yet as a kid, and the TVA came in and scooped her. So what was that about?
Nip it in the bud, maybe. And I'm not sure if it's her whole existence because they did wait till she was 8. What she did at 8, I don't know, but she did have 8 years of existence where she could have, they could have got her.
But was it some Minority Report shit where they was like pre-crime, or they were like, oh, we know you're gonna do this shit.
Yeah, we know you're gonna end up with this other Loki. Let's cut that out. Let's get that early.
But they said for your crimes against the timeline, meaning it had already happened. But what crime?
Everything has already happened. Don't you remember that time is all laid out? We're just playing through it. We're just traveling through it. Stay woke.
We, as we see after she gets picked up, she ends up just fighting against Ravonna. And this is now because Benhameen put the bug in my ear. This is now potentially questionable whether or not Ravonna let her go or whether she actually really escaped. The reason why that, again, this bug appeared is because Ravonna seems to hesitate at first. Yeah. Now, I didn't see it of a hesitation. I just thought young Sylvie got the jump on her, grabbed the 10 pad and bounced. You're saying it could be something else.
It could be something else. Also, she's 8. like how difficult
Kids
is it?
Kids are slippery as fuck.
True indeed, they are. But at the same time, like you got the whole TVA behind you. You could have found her at some point. She's 8. Before she gets to... before she gets the, knowledge and shit, go get her right then. Snatch her up.
But it looks like that's what's been happening, because you see that Sylvie says that she was on the run, or essentially expresses that she was on the run her entire life. So yeah, like you said, before she knew how shit really worked and how the tempad could really get her place, and even before she learned about the whole thing about hiding in apocalypses, she was on the run for the TVA because they were chasing after her.
Yep. And also shout out to young Brisa again, because she pointed out that it's highly unlikely that being on the run, she would ever develop the idea of love as we know it, or have time for a relationship, or even be thinking about that.
How could you? Because if you on the run since you're 7, 8 years old, growing up in apocalypses, I would understand you have a general half empty, the glass half empty attitude about life. And that's a great point, Brisa. Brisa, you should be on the show. Yeah. How do you develop that understanding?
Yeah, and it just it's like also, I think that it might be, and I'm hoping to have faith in the writer's room, is that it is a one-sided love between Loki and Sylvie. That Loki has fallen in love, and Sylvie is just be like, dog,
Also, but can we not be giving her enough credit? Because, yes, she's still a young kid, but that's still a formidable age. And she does tell Loki that she does remember, she tells the truth, that she actually does remember some of her life in Asgard and her family, etc. So you understand, at least to certain degrees, you understand love, particularly familial love, at least.
True. You're right. So So, but I just feel like she's been looking at this man like he an idiot throughout this whole series. So it's like, why would she just suddenly be like, oh, yeah, he's kind of cute now, I mean, I know it happens, but, it's like.
I mean, is it the stress of almost dying in an apocalypse and seeing
and then
the Majora's Mask moon coming towards you and shit? Like, I mean, that happens, right? That happens all the time, right? They're like, oh, we about to die. Let's just get it in. Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, shit, I would have been smashing right there on the, but.
Yeah. We already talked about the TVA, particularly when it comes to the timekeepers. I kept saying since the beginning, this is very Wizard of Oz vibes.
Facts.
And it's revealed that they're fakes. You just mentioned. You mentioned, Ben, that they're reminiscent of the Living Tribunal. Again, that space judge with 3 faces. You see the 3 faces of these supposed Time Lords.
Also, Bid reminded me of these dudes from Transformers the movie. I can't remember their names, but they're on this one planet they go to where these niggas are judging everyone, and it's like these 3 guys, but they have like their faces spin around.
Yeah.
But it's 3 of them instead of just one, like the Living Tribunal.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, one of them, the one to the left who talked like, whoa.
Yeah, why were they talking like that?
Fam, I had to put on the subtitles immediately. My man was, whoa.
That was very Charlie Brown's teacher.
Hey, I was like, what? Because when the first one spoke, I was like, all right.
Credits. Turn on the closed caption. Like,
because the first one spoke, I was like, okay. Then the second one, whoa. I was like, what did you say, name? But he definitely looked like a Muppet Immortus. And we talked about Immortus before. Immortus is another version of Kang. He's another time traveler. He might be Kang. I'm not sure about the current, canon storyline, but at one point he was Kang. I think they've separated him into another person now, but he looks like that, like the hat, everything, the beard up is definitely very Immortus.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. The third one, shout out to Tom the fanboy, who is always in the Twitch chat.
What up, Tom?
Yeah, shout out twitch.tv/forallnerds. But he's always talking about this, or he posted this other character who looks like the third one. But when he posted it on Twitter, I was like, I have no idea who that character is. So, right over my head.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This was tough. This was a tough episode. Like, a shout out to the parent that sent us that picture of their daughter. This parent sent us a picture of their daughter. They said this is for her reaction after watching episode 4. And that little girl was just in complete pain, shambles, tears. As Benhameen pointed out, she couldn't even finish her donut. She had her little laptop on her lap just crying. I presume that's after she saw what happened to Mobius.
Her sippy cup was just hurt.
I felt so bad. But yeah, Mobius, played by the great Owen Wilson.
Man.
Now this is questionable now. Considering what happened where Loki went when he got pruned. we saw Mobius get pruned. It was a very sad situation. It was like, fuck. But then after the end credits, I'm like, wait, is Mobius actually dead?
No.
Is he in this Neverland zone?
Riding a jet ski. That's my thought, is because Ravonna kept asking him, where do you want to go? Because she already knew when they went upstairs, she was going to poke him in the back.
I'm a poke. Is that the new euphemism? You want the true death? You want to get poked in the back? Like,
I mean, the way she poked Loki, like, shout outs to Kate again, the director, because the way that she appeared as Loki vanished was so cold-blooded.
It's also kind of True Blood, right? Like, well,
yes.
No, when they get poked, they explode. The vampires anyway.
Yeah, that shit was grotesque.
But that, like you said, that disintegration of a life, like
the way Mobius, when he was like, I want the jet ski, and it was like, nah, it was like, oh my God.
What looks worse to go out, being Infinity Fade or to getting poked in the back?
I mean, he got it in the front. He saw it coming.
Well, either way, I'm just saying, like, getting pruned. Is that a worse? Like, if you were watching, if you saw someone get pruned versus someone Infinity Fade before your eyes,
the
which
fade,
one is more shocking?
I think is worse. The fade, them dogs turned to dust, dog.
The dead leaves in the air, the leaves in the wind.
them fans turned to fall. Like, it was like autumn up in there.
Potpourri.
Like, that man turned Wakanda from summer to autumn real quick.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, the fade was way worse. It's clean, like the poke in the back is clean. You just gone. The fade is
So
like, oh God. You still gotta look at him.
Now. Okay.
Yeah, you still gotta be like, rocket over there, trying to scrape Groot up. It was terrible.
You're the worst, man.
I know.
Loki Lofson, played by Tom Hiddleston. We see him pruned again. Another. I ain't gonna lie, I fucking laughed when he was about to. It felt like he was gonna tell Sylvie that he loved her, and he got it poked in the back. I was like, that's bad timing for you. It's just. I don't know why I laughed, but I just thought it was the funniest thing.
I can't lie.
Mobius like, I just want you to know that I love you, or whatever he was about to say. It felt like that, okay?
Yeah, Mobius hurt, but Loki, I rolled.
Yeah.
Once, and like I say, what's the name appearing with the I got him, face behind it. That was it. I was dying.
Ben, I mean, you also call Loki a simp. Why?
I mean, it wasn't a simp, but it was just one of those hilarious little moments in the show for me is when they're coming down the hallway after they've been arrested. And of course, Sylvie got like 4 guards on her. Mm-hmm. She's fighting all this stuff.
Loki only got 2.
Yeah, Loki got 2, and he's just walking along. And then he looks over and sees her struggling and fighting. And then and sees that she got 4 guards. And then immediately starts struggling and fighting himself. Like
he wants to be just like her.
Yeah, that was so brilliant, yo. Like, it was a good shout out to the show, man. It's little things like that are just like, that's good, That's well done.
Hunter C20, played by Sasha Lane. Ravonna says she's dead, but I think she's lying.
Yeah.
Of course, on the tempad, when is it Mobius looks at it? Yes, and he watches that interrogation. It says that she's dead, but of course, these are files that are easily manipulated by those in the TVA, whoever's running the show. She's shown as deceased, but there are several dates with her name, with her profile, I should say. You see March 15th, 2050, I believe. And that contains the case file from the interrogation video that Mobius sees. And we end up seeing Ravonna at the end of the interrogation video. Once C20 goes off talking about it's variants here, variants there, variants everywhere, Ravonna's like, cut this shit off.
That nigga had her in 1K, not 4K.
But wasn't that... like 1K, but also was that like too on the nose the way Ravonna just like looked at the camera?
Pure comedy, yo. Yeah, a little bit on the nose, a little bit maybe she's
like playing games. Which one is it? She's a lying-ass liar. But also you see other dates on the tempad, and a part of me, if this is off by like a number or a 3 looks like an 8, but you see like November 8th, 1537 and July 13th, 1979. Again, going back to this whole understanding of different variants of the same person. Mm-hmm. I don't know what all these could pertain to, but just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I have no clue. I don't think her sip of margaritas looked like 1979, but maybe it was. you know?
No, whatever.
No. Yeah, it didn't seem to be right. A little more current than that. Looked like she was just snatched up.
Hunter B-15, played by the great Wunmi Mosaku. We were correct when we believe that. I was saying, how do we think B-15 saw her past life? You were expressing that maybe not everything, but maybe enough to kind of shake her up a little bit.
But like you said, she seems to have seen a lot more than I thought
she saw a lot. Because you're discombobulated when you were just enchanted, but it was just a little bit too much, and she seemed more than just combobulated. She was more very much confused. So it made sense then that the only reason why she wanted to know what Loki told Mobius and why she went through the trouble of bringing Sylvie back to Roskar is because she's seen something wild. And my question was, did Sylvie show her past life when she was Ruby in Lovecraft Country and she fell in love with a white man?
She would have definitely woke the fuck up. Did that shake her? Mad confused. What the fuck? That bitch took off her skin.
A white man or a white woman that takes off the skin and turns into a white man. I don't know.
Yeah, that's like the worst dream, dog. Imagine. And then you know it's real too. Like imagine you're like, wait, that's really my life? I think this TVA is looking pretty cool right now. Yeah. Maybe I'll just uphold this law for a little while.
Yo. And the scenes with B-15 are particularly important, obviously, because of the whole understanding of enchantment and what B-15 may or may not know. And the fact that B-15 is very, also we're talking about adept. She's very adept at using the tools of the TVA. And I mean, she's a high-ranking officer, at least when it comes to the Minutemen. So as she's in the hallway, she stares at a TVA propaganda posters that says, "Did you get them all verified through deletion?" Now, considering we know that deletion may not mean immediate death, once again, what actually happens when variants are pruned? And when they say verify, do they mean just verify that you got the Loki just by putting them in that holding cell or the roster cell as Benhameen was in? Like, what do they mean by, like, when you say verify through deletion, does that just, like, put in a liner note on the TVA records to say you got them? Like, it's not really killing them.
You know, I thought it meant make sure you erase them hoes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I thought it meant.
Effective. Make sure you erase them hoes.
Yeah. Verify through delete.
Like,
management.
I understand that.
Wash your hands. Make sure you erase them hoes. Management.
And then, I mean, your girl, Ravonna Renslayer, played by Gugu Mbatha Raw. Then, I mean, what is your infatuation with Ravonna?
It goes back to Gugu Mbatha Raw. That's what you just explained it all right there. That's my infatuation with Ravonna. It's my infatuation with Gugu Mbatha Raw. But yes, like I said, I already said this. I am not like, y'all know me. I was Team Hayward. I was Team John Walker. I am not Team Ravonna.
You're not?
No.
Ben, I mean, you were saying something the other day, though, that made me seem like you were still very much on board with her.
I mean, I would get pruned. Prune me, Ravonna. Like, I got no problem with it, time is an illusion, all that. Send me in another world, put me on a jet ski, I'm fine. You
gonna let her poke you in the back?
I mean,
with the Jesus pose.
It sounds real good to me. Ravonna poking me in. Hey, anyway,
we're so immature in this show. That being said, we have to.
Wait, no, that before we hop off Ravonna real quick, that could be taken a lot of ways. Let me say this, that there's another theory and another idea that, because we talked about it before, that Mobius might be a variant of Loki, right? What if Ravonna is a variant of Loki and is that Loki that we're talking about who's behind the scenes?
Why do all these people have to be variants of Loki? I understand all roads lead back to Loki, but even the characters?
I don't think Mobius is, but I think Ravonna has potential to be one. I don't think so because Ravonna Renslayer in the comics is such a separate person and such an ill
and I like these separate people, especially the Mobius, especially Ravonna, like everybody. I mean, my thing is they've already established that all of these, or Sylvie established that all of these people are real people that are variants that were plucked out of their timeline. So I don't want this to be a fucking situation, what the scroll situation where it's revealed that they're all the same thing. Like, no.
Yeah. Now, I don't want them all to be Loki either, and I don't want Ravonna to be Loki, but it's just a theory out there. But like I said, my main theory is that it's just going to be another Loki. actually, maybe even though we know these trailers are lying to us, in one of the trailers, again, there's a shot of Loki standing in front of the throne of Asgard in full regalia, like he has been made king of Asgard. Also, one last thing about that whole illusion thing, I wanted to point this out. And I wanted to shout out the person who put it into my head. I think this might have been Andrew, actually, but no, it wasn't. But whatever. Sorry, I'll remember by next week. Remember, Loki is good at putting on illusions. We know that, but we also see him put on whole ass plays, like we saw in what's that, Ragnarok, where he is doing the whole thing and imitating Odin and creating an illusion, which once again goes back to the TVA and the idea of these robots, because that's something I didn't point out. When their heads do get chopped off and we see the robots, the other two start rolling laughing. Like it's the funniest thing in the world to them that you've seen through this illusion. Which once again seems like a very low-key thing to do.
This man is out of control.
Yeah, and like I said, I just feel like it is him. I just want to see how they do flipping Kang, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
All right, rounding out this episode, we want to talk about our Easter eggs, inspiration, and music that may have been playing during the scenes. There is a very interesting line that Mobius says when they're talking about Loki, and they're just like, "Oh, he's a slippery fish. What is it about Loki?" And Mobius talks about how they've brought in Kree, they've brought in Titans, they've brought in vampires. As far as the Kree, we do know them from, if you're just following MCU, Captain Marvel. I don't know if there's any such Kree time violators. Maybe there are, but apparently there's some Kree race of time violators of Kree origin that appear, at least in this MCU.
Well, in the Miss Minutes film that we saw in the first episode, the Kree are shown fighting what some have thought might be the Nova Corps on Titan.
This is true, right? And I'm sorry if I said Miss Marvel a second ago. I meant Captain Marvel. Sorry.
Yep. But they will show up in Miss Marvel too, because they are part of why she gets the powers and all that.
Okay. As far as Titans, potentially referring to Thanos, but we know they didn't bring in this Thanos that caused the snap.
Or did we? Or do we? That's because there's another big kind of, not big hole, but something I've always thought about is like, what happens to that timeline when Thanos goes to the future? Remember, because one of the Thanos that gets murked at the end of Endgame is the one who came from the past and then went to the future. So what happened to his timeline?
Oh my God.
When he went to the future.
Don't tell me that.
Like
that would make sense why they have so many Infinity Stones.
Yeah, that's a huge hole right there. Immediately, like, this timeline is without a Thanos, and it's like, unless, once again, they go with what was supposed to happen, and that time they just went and pruned that whole timeline off, which probably was the case.
And you said Titans could also potentially refer to Eternals?
Yeah, because in the comic books, Thanos is a deviant. He's actually an Eternal who is a mutant and looks like a deviant. The deviants and Eternals are the two races who we will see in Eternals. The Eternals are all the human-looking ones. The deviants are the ones who look more like Thanos.
Okay.
But Thanos is born to Eternal parents. His brother is Star Fox, one of the Eternals. I don't think Star Fox will be in the film, but he has a relation with them, and they're all from Titan, or a moon of Titan. Titan is a moon, right? Titan is a moon. That's the thing. In the comics, in real life, Titan is a moon of Jupiter, if I'm not wrong, right? Might be off about that. I'm pretty sure it's Jupiter. But in the MCU, they've changed that, where they're not from that Titan. Titan is a whole nother planet. So the Eternals are probably going to come from Titan, and that's why I think they brought in the Titan. But I would think they were talking about Thanos when they did that.
Titan is Saturn's largest moon.
Saturn. I knew it was one of the two.
Saturn, my favorite planet.
I knew it was one of them.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The last reference of vampires had me thinking that vampires, that's Benhami's favorite thing. This line confirms the existence of vampires in the MCU and just may be a really easy backdoor to merge Blade into this main branch of MCU canon. Could also potentially refer to Mobius. We know that Mobius film will be coming out.
Yep.
You said that Mobius is not technically a vampire. As far as I knew, he was a vampire, but you say nah.
Oh yeah, no. In the comics, he's not a vampire at all. Mobius he's actually named Mobius the Living Vampire. because he's not
vampires
a vampire.
are technically not living, so
he's not a vampire. He's a scientist who comes up with this formula that he injects himself with that gives him certain vampiric abilities and qualities. But no, he is not a vampire.
Okay.
Yep, not at all. And I think they're going, even in the trailer they've shown from Morbius, it's about this scientist developing something that turns him into this.
Got it.
And nobody likes Jared Leto.
That's rude, Ben.
Hey.
I think no one likes him as Joker.
No one likes him in real life. That man
I've heard the stories.
Yeah. I'm not even going to repeat them.
But I thought he calmed down.
Who cares? Like, you don't get a second chance after you do shit like that. Like, where does it
the
start?
stuff I read was wild. But
like, fam, like, how do you even get to that level to do that type of shit? White men. That's how.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. You said earlier, Ben, in terms of, I've mentioned Loki's time cell, that door that leads him, that they open up to lead to him, it's red. You mentioned that it could potentially be a reference to the door of hell, a la Al Ewing.
Yep.
I also thought, if we're going back to our theories about the colors, how different colors represent different powers in the MCU, the yellow Infinity Stone is of the mind. And we see all of the time doors are yellow up until this point. Now, this could also go back to what we've been saying about the TVA just being all an illusion and this is fake and all that stuff, because if we're using the Mind Stone, you are making up, like what Wanda did, you're making up a story, right? You're making up a fake place that doesn't really exist. All the stuff they could be doing, they may or may not actually be doing this. That's a far-fetched theory, but I'm just saying that just in terms of the stone situation.
That's a good one, but yeah, that would take a lot, because that means Loki is still sitting in Mongolia right now.
Right. It would take a lot, but let's just say that's the case. And then with Loki time cell being a red door, we know in MCU, red is the stone of reality. So red is what reality is actually bending the will of reality, which would make sense of why Loki's cell was just so much more visceral than all these other places he's been to. But then again, you can say Lamentus One was a very visceral apocalypse as well. So
pretty much.
Who knows?
So was Pompeii.
Yo!
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up, right? It's like, this historical thing that's used for comedic effect.
Yeah, it's wild fucked up. And it's like this dude shows up and starts yelling at these people, and then they get cooked. Like, nigga.
Not cooked. Okay.
I would say they get Pompeii, but they are actually at Pompeii. So, it's
yes.
Yeah.
When we talk about the music, we have The Swan by Clara Rockmore. That's playing when they are in Ravonna's office. This is to Ben's AKA the Theremin to society. Clara Rockmore is widely regarded as the greatest theremin player to have ever lived, and that's the instrument you all hear that sounds very haunting and weird, like very alien-like. I'm not gonna. I was almost about to try to make the sound, but I'm not. I'm not gonna embarrass myself. Yeah, but it's very ghost-like and strange. Yeah. But the way that it's actually pretty cool. I would just definitely suggest to go to Google. And just look at a video of how it works. But you see the person, it's like they're touching like an invisible harp almost. Like they're moving wavelengths by their hand. And how it actually works, go look that up, because I'm not going to butcher how that works, but it's just really cool. It's just so precise, particularly how Clara does it, at least for this song and the video that I saw. So take a look at that. And then we have at the end of the episode, the song, If You Really Love Me, parentheses, Really Love Me, by Brenda Lee. And as we keep talking about, read and listen to the lyrics, listen to the music to see how it all coincides with what you're watching.
Definitely, because it talks about like damn near an apocalyptic moment and loving people at the end of time and loving people throughout time and this type of stuff.
Right. And in the credits, we always say, take a look at those photos, those black and white photos that you see in the files, because they change generally with each episode. We do see now a new photo of Sylvie as the girl, as well as Sylvie and B-15 at Roxcar, and also Sylvie and Loki when they were holding arms or touching each other on Lamentus One. And then
myself.
You touching yourself. Okay. And then if you want to give your last points about that after credit scenes with the three Lokis.
Oh, yeah. Like I mentioned before, when Loki wakes up in the after credit scene and asks if it's hell, hell is Hel, not two L's. It's the Asgardian realm of the dead where people go if they're not in Valhalla, which is the realm where you go when you died a righteous death.
Is that like the heaven?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, and they go to Valhalla and wait for the Ragnarok when they will all be resurrected to come and battle in the final battle.
Got it.
Yeah. And Valhalla is like supposed to be this great hall where you're drinking mead and just living your life up.
So Valhalla is the waiting room.
Pretty much.
When you're playing COD and you're waiting for your party to come together. Got it.
Yeah. So that's where you get twisted at before the game.
Got it.
At least I do. And then hell is like not the place you want to go. So when Loki wakes up and says, "Is this hell?" That's kind of indicative of his character still and what he thinks of himself. Because he's like right away, I ain't making it to Valhalla. I know that much.
Yeah.
You know?
But like it's not even a question. He just says, "Yo, I'm in hell."
Yeah,
he doesn't say, "Where am I?" He says,
"Is this
am
hell?
I? Is this hell?"
Is this hell? So he's like, he's expecting hell when he dies. You know, cold, right? Because that's, especially for Asgardians, for Norse myth, that's like the thing, you know, Valhalla, to like achieve Valhalla. It's like what we saw in Mad Max Fury Road, where they're like, you know, I got to be blessed with chrome before I die, you know? It's that thing. It's like you got to die an honorable death. You know, you want to get burned, you know, you want to get the honorable burial, all that stuff.
Very Klingon of them, yes.
Yeah, so your spirit will be guided to Valhalla, you know, and you will wait for the big battle at the end and everything. But like I said, we see in the background a desolate Avengers Tower, which leads me to believe that this is the reality where Loki won and, you know, destroyed the world and did all the things, because like he says, you know, like we talked about before, he had no real plan other than destruction. Yeah. Even while he was doing it, he was causing mass destruction. So it would have ended badly if the Avengers hadn't stopped him. You know, the people of Earth aren't going to give up, so he would have just kept wrecking shit, so they did. So that's what we've seen. You know, we see the scene with them sitting in the back with all that in the background and all these Lokis, which leads me to believe that, like I said before, it's a Loki behind all this, and they're just sending all their Lokis to, you know, rock.
And I was really excited to see that end credit scene or after credit scene. I screamed. I was like, yes! It made up for all of the low points I felt for episode 3. I just was like, this was amazing.
Y'all don't understand. Like, I've talked about it so many times. Like, Agent of Asgard by Al Ewing is great. Journey into Mystery by Kieran Gillen. The actual order of them is Journey into Mystery by Kieran Gillen. That starts off this whole thing with the kid Loki and everything. And then it goes into Young Avengers by Kieran Gillen. And that's where I first met Kid Loki. And I was just instantly, this man's in a diner at one point and he's like, let me go cast my favorite spell. And he walks over to the counter and says, a muffin with eggs and the bacon stuff. You know, like that's his favorite
his
spell.
Order, what's his spell? Oh.
Like he just fucking loves himself some egg and bacon. Yeah, it was so cute.
He innocent.
But then you find out how he's not at the same time, and it's this twisted shit. And then it goes into Agent of Asgard, where you see like the teenage Loki and, you know, his final attempts to redeem himself. All 3 of those are great comics. And so when I saw Kid Loki, it was just like, yes, you know.
All your dreams came true.
If he goes and orders some bacon at some point in this, I'm done. I am done.
Your dream came true in true Disney fashion. You're going to Disney World, Benhameen.
There it is.
And everyone listening, you have just been to the Views from the 616 podcast. Benhameen, do you have anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Man, I don't think so. We've talked about how everybody battles themselves, I do want to make this last point about that whole battle themselves, right? It's not really a bad writing at all, because it's one of the most basic fundamental like truths about humanity is that we are always battling our negative side, right? That's why these stories work so well. That's why like Professor X versus Magneto, people always talk about Malcolm versus Martin, but it's really not that at all.
It's 2 sides of the same coin.
It's 2 sides of the same coin. Professor X believes that humanity and mutants can coexist in the future. Magneto doesn't. So basically that's all it is. And because of that, it's, you know, it's one guy who has this positive view of the world and his negative side. And they've tipped into that several times. Like what happens when Professor X stops believing in his dream? What happens when Cyclops does? You know? And so it's always the same thing. Iron Man is the guy who realizes, you know, his weapon shit is bad. Ironmonger, Obadiah Stane, who's like, nah, F that. Let's keep making these weapons and get this loot. So, you know, it's like the dude who he was battling against the person who he is now. So that's the same thing we've seen even in those series that I just mentioned. It's young Loki, Kid Loki, battling against the evil Loki that he was. And it also goes into this whole idea that we've talked about before about stories and the one last thing. This is the difference between the MCU and comic books, because the MCU seems to be telling a story that is ongoing, where you have to know some of the history behind it.
Yes.
A lot of comic books for a long time, and even to this day, especially the big ones from Marvel and DC, are very repetitive. Like, they'll go a few years on a certain storyline, and then they'll reset it all back to the beginning, where it's like Loki's the villain, Thor's the hero, because they want it where if you come into it, you can instantly pick it up at any time. And they don't want people, like the X-Men have going on for like 60, 70 years now. You know, it'd be tough for someone to be like, okay, there's 70 years of history, and half of it doesn't make sense with the other 35 years.
Right.
So it's easier for them just to be like, all right, here's a jumping on point. You know, we did this big House of X, Powers of X story where we went all wild, and now let's get back to basics again. And that's just how it works, you know, for these big stories, because otherwise you're going to have to come to some type of ending. And the MCU might face that, you know, at one point, but they're still so young, and the way they're developing it, you know, it seems like they can keep going without having to reboot it. So
many more decades to go before the heat death of the MCU.
Hopefully, because I'm thoroughly fucking enjoying it. I can't wait for episode 5, y'all. Like, because like I said, she told me a long time ago that episode 5 was the one. And so I've been holding that in, because I've been like, all right. And then even when we were doubting on 3, I was like, yeah, but I know 5 is coming.
It's coming.
And I'm excited. Yeah, I've heard people talk about how Loki changes so much in the MCU. So, you know,
we'll see.
Stick with us, y'all. Next week, we back.
Thank you for sticking us this week, too, for our review of episode 4, the Nexus Event, Loki on Disney+. Thank you to everyone who has been enjoying and listening and loving and supporting views from the 616. I'm Tatiana King. That's DJ Benhameen. Those are also our handles on social media. Please do us a few things. I really, really super hope you love what you heard. I know you did, because you're still here listening to me right now. Do this. Follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/forallnerds. That way you can watch us live as we go through our theories and our arguments and everything else, and interact with the fam in the Twitch chat. Twitch.tv/forallnerds. We are going live. We're trying to go live again at 1 p.m. on Mondays. Mm-hmm. We might go back, y'all. I'm sorry, but it just seemed like that still was the best time for everyone. But we're still gonna figure it out. That also said, make sure if you want to get a piece of some beautiful merch, especially like Benhameen's Safe Negro podcast merch, that is, or should I say was now, that was our Lovecraft Country review podcast that got rave reviews, even from Misha herself, even from Shannon Houston and the rest of the writers of the team. If you want to get that now, I mean, should we make this limited edition at this point?
Hell no, because the legend of Safe Negro Pod and Lovecraft Country will live forever. Okay. So go to tpublic.com/stores/forallnerds and get this joint. And while you're at it, you can head over to our SoundCloud. Yes. You can follow us. You can subscribe over there. And you can find all of the Safe Negro Pod. Because I've seen a lot of people who didn't get into Lovecraft Country before and are now going to get into it. So if you know one of those people, if you're a listener of Safe Negro Pod, tell them about us. Let them know. Yeah. Follow us.
Or if you are the person who's just not getting to Lovecraft Country, well, now we're telling you, we have a whole podcast where we dive deep into every episode, and we talk to the writers on Lovecraft Country. I mean, we went into it, and we really, really hope that you take a listen to that. As Benhameen said, there is the playlist on SoundCloud. You can always listen to all of our episodes of Views from the 616 by subscribing to For All Nerds on your favorite podcast platform. Doesn't matter which one it is, we are there. As Benhameen said, make sure you go to our TeePublic to get the Safe Negro podcast tea or cup or book or phone case or mask or whatever you want, but you can also get other beautiful and exclusive designs straight from For All Nerds right there. Also, you can go to our patreon.com/forallnerds, and no matter what tier you're on, you're going to get special privileges. Everyone who is already on the tiers right now, you got a little message about a month ago. Your stuff is coming. It is on the way. So take a look at your inboxes. I know you'll be happy for your surprises. But like I said, make sure if you want to support us in many different ways, those are the ways you do it. Make sure you're sharing our shows. Make sure you're posting about us, adding us, taking pictures in your merch, tagging us. Everything you do is absolutely a blessing, absolutely helps. Thank you so much to our team, Chica, Luna, and Uncolored Page. We appreciate you and love you. Thank you to everybody that follows us and supports us all the time. And we'll be back to watch the exciting episode 5.
Word up. And like she said, make sure you are following us. And if you can support us there, subscribe. Twitch.tv/forallnerds. Every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Views from the 6 live broadcast. Me and Tatiana are in the chat going off with everybody else. It's one of my favorite times of the week. So please join us there. Twitch.tv/forallnerds, 1 p.m. Eastern Time.